Ethan sat alone in his small apartment, staring at the rain sliding down the window like tears falling from the sky. The room was silent except for the ticking clock on the wall and the distant sound of thunder rolling across the city. His Bible rested unopened beside him, covered in dust, untouched for months. Life had not become what he imagined. Years ago, Ethan believed he would live with purpose, confidence, and joy. He thought faith would protect him from heartbreak, disappointment, and confusion. But now, at 29, everything felt broken. His job barely paid enough to survive. His friends had slowly disappeared into their own lives. The dreams he once carried inside his heart now felt like ashes scattered by the wind. And worst of all, he felt abandoned by God. "Where are you?" he whispered into the empty room. No answer came, only silence. Ethan leaned back in his chair and closed his eyes. He remembered how he used to pray every morning. He remembered believing that God had a plan for him. But after years of waiting, pain, and unanswered prayers, his faith had slowly faded into exhaustion. That night something inside him finally broke. Tears filled his eyes as he bowed his head. "I can't do this anymore, God," he said quietly. "If you're still there, please show me something, anything." The storm outside grew louder. Then suddenly the power went out. Darkness covered the apartment. Ethan sighed deeply and stood up to find a flashlight. As he searched through old boxes in the closet, his hand brushed against something wooden. He pulled it out carefully. It was a small box his grandfather had given him years ago. Ethan stared at it for a moment. Dust covered the surface and the hinges were old and worn. He slowly opened it. Inside was a folded letter. His grandfather had died 5 years earlier, but Ethan instantly recognized the handwriting. With trembling hands, he unfolded the paper. The letter began with words that made his heart stop. "If you are reading this, then life has probably become heavier than you expected." Ethan swallowed hard. His grandfather had always been a man of deep faith. Calm, wise, patient. When Ethan was a child, he used to sit beside him on the porch while his grandfather spoke about God like he was closer than the air they breathed. Ethan continued reading. "There will come a season when you believe God has forgotten you. You will feel buried beneath fear, failure, disappointment, and pain. But listen carefully, my son, seeds are buried before they grow." Ethan felt tears returning to his eyes. Outside, lightning flashed across the sky. The letter continued. "You will ask God why he allowed certain things to fall apart. You will wonder why doors closed. You will question why your path became darker while others seemed brighter. But one day you will understand this truth. God often works beneath the surface before he works where eyes can see." Ethan slowly sat down on the floor. Those words reached places inside him he had tried to hide. For years, he thought his suffering meant God had abandoned him. But what if something deeper was happening? What if the silence wasn't rejection? What if God had been working underneath everything all along? His grandfather wrote, "A tree grows roots long before anyone sees fruit. And the deeper the roots, the stronger the tree survives the storm." Ethan stared at the page while thunder shook the windows. Suddenly, memories flooded his mind. The painful breakup that forced him to learn independence. The lost job that pushed him toward helping others. The lonely nights that taught him compassion for broken people. The failures that destroyed his pride. The waiting seasons that built patience inside him. Could it be possible that the things he hated most had shaped him the deepest? His grandfather's words continued like a voice reaching across time. God is not only building the life around you. He is building the person within you. Ethan covered his face with his hands. All this time he had been focused on visible success. Money, recognition, achievement. But perhaps God cared more about the condition of his heart than the comfort of his circumstances. The rain outside slowly softened. Ethan read the final part of the letter. "One day God will show you what has been beneath you all along. Underneath the pain was strength. Underneath the waiting was preparation. Underneath the silence was his presence. Underneath your brokenness was his mercy carrying you every step." A chill moved through Ethan's body. For the first time in years, he didn't feel alone, not because his problems disappeared, not because life suddenly became easy, but because hope quietly returned. He realized something important in that dark apartment. God had never left. Even during the hardest seasons, something unseen had been happening underneath his life, like roots growing deep underground where nobody could see them. The next morning, the storm had passed. Sunlight entered the apartment through the windows, touching the floor with golden light. Ethan woke up on the couch still holding the letter in his hands. For the first time in months, he opened his Bible. His eyes landed on a verse. "Be strong and courageous, for the Lord your God goes with you." Deuteronomy 31:6. Ethan smiled weakly. The words felt alive. Days passed, then weeks. Life did not magically transform overnight. Bills still existed, problems still remained, but Ethan himself began changing. He started praying again, even when the prayers felt simple and imperfect. He began helping at a local shelter every weekend. He started listening more carefully to people instead of hiding inside his own pain. And slowly, he noticed something remarkable. The broken parts of his life were becoming places where compassion grew. One afternoon at the shelter, Ethan met an older man named Samuel who had lost nearly everything. Samuel spoke softly and carried sadness in his eyes. As Ethan listened to him, he realized something. A year earlier, he would not have understood this man's pain, but now he did, because suffering had softened his heart instead of destroying it. That night, Ethan walked home beneath the evening sky feeling different, not perfect, not fully healed, but stronger. As he crossed a bridge over the river, he stopped and looked at the water below reflecting the city lights. Then quietly, deep inside his spirit, he felt something. Not a loud voice, not thunder, but peace. A gentle understanding settled into his heart. God had been beneath him all along. When he failed, God was there. When he cried, God was there. When doors closed, God was there. When he felt forgotten, God was still carrying him through unseen ways. Ethan realized faith was not about understanding every season immediately. Faith was trusting that even underground, where nobody sees movement, God is still growing something beautiful. Months later, Ethan's life continued changing little by little. He found a new job helping struggling families organize financial support programs. The work wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. Every day he met people carrying burdens similar to the ones he once carried alone. And strangely, his old pain became useful. Because wounded people often recognize healing better than anyone else. One evening after work, Ethan visited his grandfather's grave. The sun was setting behind the hills, painting the sky orange and gold. Wind moved gently through the trees. Ethan stood quietly holding the old letter. "I understand now," he whispered. Tears filled his eyes again, but these were different tears. Not hopeless tears. Healing tears. For years he asked God to remove the storm. But God had used the storm to grow roots deeper than Ethan ever imagined. And now he finally saw what had been beneath him all along. Not emptiness, not abandonment, but God's unseen hands carrying him through every dark season. As the light faded across the evening sky, Ethan smiled softly. The journey ahead would still have challenges. There would still be days of uncertainty. But now he understood something that changed everything. God does some of his greatest work where human eyes cannot see. Beneath disappointment, he builds endurance. Beneath heartbreak, he builds wisdom. Beneath waiting, he builds faith. And beneath every painful season, his love remains steady and unshaken. Sometimes people believe nothing is happening because they cannot see immediate results. But roots grow in hidden places. And roots are what keep trees standing when storms arrive. That night, Ethan walked away from the graveyard with peace resting inside him like calm after rain. The city lights flickered in the distance. The stars slowly appeared above him. And for the first time in many years, he no longer feared the future. Because he knew now, even in silence, even in darkness, even in seasons that feel buried, God is still working beneath you all along.